Hello everyone, Shroomraver here, and today I have the start of something a little bit different on Showdown for you. Yes, indeed. It's slightly different from stuff I've done on Showdown before, just random Wi-Fi or Showdown battles with a team I've made. And in order to sort of precursor this little mini session of a few videos, we're going to have to take a little trip back in time to sort of see where I started doing this whole competitive battling thing. Way back in sort of Gen 4 time actually, is when I first started getting into the whole competitive side of battling. I first started watching Mariland, as many people will have done, and I have very clear memories of him doing like his classic team builder for the team with like the Salamence, Tiamatra and all that lot, and sort of going through his EV and IV spread. I very clearly remember looking at the screen going, what are all these random numbers and why are they only 0, 31 or 252? Of course, later discovering those to be EVs and IVs, but at the time I didn't know. Now from there I got into a few different channels of Wi-Fi battling, very prominent among them being someone who you may or should have heard of, that being NBZ. At the time I didn't even know that really people did competitive battling, let alone British people. NBZ was a British YouTuber, PokeTuber. He doesn't really go in for that anymore. He does some streaming now and then. He has a podcast called This Nintendo Life. Links should be down in the description if I can find them. But if you know NBZ, you will know that he is synonymous with a very famous team. A team that started out as nothing in particular, but turned into legend. And that team was 5 guys and a Gigalith. Basically what this team, the premise of it was you had 5 offensive guys, a lot of priority, working chiefly around not switching much and making predictions, supported just by a Gigalith. And it became very famous. It went all the way to the echelons of Ubers. And, you know, with MBZ's blessing, I've got a few clips of the team, which is cool. So the Gigalith in question, Potato, a physically defensive Gigalith, mainly there to set up the stealth rocks, toxic things when it could, take a hit with sturdy if possible, and get off rock slides and earthquakes to chip damage here and there. This was back in the day of no sandstream, so it was just a sturdy Gigalith. Then we get into these 3 powerful priority users, first up being Incredible the Azumarill, a max HP, adamant, choice banded, huge power Azumarill. Of course at the time it was pure water, so it wasn't rocking out with Fairy Stab at all. We had Waterfall, Aquajet, Double Edge and Superpower. After that we had I Will Kick You the Hitmonchan, a Life Orb set with Iron Fist, Drain Punch, Mach Punch, Ice Punch and Thunder Punch on there, powerful Absorbing Stab, Priority Stab and of course Bolt Beam coverage. I worked out I had 120 EVs into HP. I assumed it was Adamant max attack and assumed that the rest of those EVs went into speed. Then you had McBoss, the Janitorial Kingpin Arcanine, another Life Orb set here with Intimidate, Flare Blitz, Wild Charge, Close Combat and Extreme Speed. Again, an Adamant set, or so I basically assumed it was Adamant, with the rest pumped into speed. It didn't have any HP investment. The final Life Orb user was Kong the Nidoking, again a Life Orb Sheer Force set. I assumed again max speed, timid, max special attack. It had Earth Power, Fire Blast, Thunderbolt and Ice Beam. Not a priority user, but again one of these things that was just meant to hit hard with as much coverage as possible to set up later on for those powerful priority users coming in at the end. And then of course you had Ninjask, the fucking man. Choice banded Ninjask, Adamant max attack, max speed with U-turn, Aerial Ace, Night Slash, and of course Giga Impact. Very powerful stuff there indeed. And yeah, that was pretty much the team that he was rocking out with. Now, recently I think it must have just come up in my sub box somewhere, just suggested like an old video of the 5 guys and a Gigalith. And at the time, I very clearly remember thinking in my head, wouldn't it be cool to either use this team or use something similar? So what I did, as you will be able to see coming up shortly, I recreated that iconic team to the best of my ability, and used it in OU battles, because it has to be OU currently, basically to see if it could still hang. You know, this is a team that went, as I say, through UU, OU, Ubers all over the place, getting wins where possibly even they should not have got those wins. But I had a couple of battles with them to see if they could still hang with the best of the rest in Gen 7. So you're going to see a couple of videos now of those battles to see exactly how this team can still do. So, into the first game, as you can see here, I've got it on my main screen, but my camera's over there. We do have a fairly standard looking OU team for the 5 guys and the Gigalith to go up against. First off, you've got this pretty potent walling core that really doesn't enjoy Hitmonchan. In fact, looking at the team, not a lot of it does enjoy Hitmonchan. Hitmonchan can hit this team really hard indeed. As far as his major threats go, I do have switch-ins to an extent, to a lot of them. Azumarill doesn't mind too much here that it doesn't have that berry stab, but we're going to get into the game and see exactly how the 5 guys in the Gigalith can do. So, I lead with the Arcanine, predicting his Ferrothorn. That's exactly what happens. Now, this team was built around predicting, but I don't need to early game. I have the advantage in matchup, so I just go for the Flare Blitz on the incoming Finny, which, you know, really doesn't do much. We both end up at 82%. Now, I can go into Azumarill, doesn't really mind what Finny can do to it, and as you can see, Surf really not doing much at all. He's going to switch back into the Ferrothorn. Again, I don't make the play of predicting because I have a Ferrothorn switch in Arcanine. Double Edge doesn't really do too much to it anyway at all. Now in comes the Arcanine, get the Intimidate, and he's going to get his Leech Seed off. But once again, I don't really have to make predictions here. I can just go for the Flare Blitz, and Greninja is not a switch in. It takes that damage in a big way. And the fact that I then can follow up with an Extreme Speed Life Orb boosted means that Greninja is gone. Big threat out of the way immediately. Now in comes the Ferrothorn. I do see the Protect coming as I go into Hitmonchan to threaten this thing out. As he goes into the Finny, which again I see coming. This is where the predictions come in. I go for the Thunder Punch, and that's going to do damage to the Finny. Now Finny doesn't want to stay in, he does still want to keep it. In comes the Ferrothorn. Thunder Punch this time not going to do too much. And I am taking a lot of residual damage, but I can just go for Drain Punch here. It won't kill, but it will get me back to a really nice amount of health, and in fact what he's going to do is go for Stealth Rock here. Which means I can kill him with a Drain Punch. But he's going to go for Protect to kind of scout me out. And the switch is coming, but I don't know what it's going to be. And it is going to be the Lando. If I'd gone for Ice Punch here, I would have got a lot of damage. But Drain Punch is still going to put me at, you know, a reasonable amount of health. Now I don't want to stay in here. I'm going to go into Arcanine to sack it, which turns out to be a bad play because you'll see he goes for Sword Stance, which is not good. I'm going to go to Azumarill. Aqua Jet is not quite going to take it out, and he's actually going to go for the Fly. But I want to keep Azumarill. Gigalith is my option to sack. It'll take a Fly, but it won't take a Fly into an Earthquake, which is obviously what he's going to go for here to take out the Gigalith. But Landorus has been put in a very nice amount of range to be revenged by Hitmonchan, which is exactly what is going to happen. Hitmonchan takes out the Landorus, and that's lovely. Now, in comes the Diancie. I don't want to stay in. I have a switch in to Diancie's Dual Stab in the form of Nidoking. Diamond Storm actually gets a crit here, which is unfortunate, and it's a little bit dicey, but I do live the following Diamond Storm, and Earth Power is going to take out the Mega Diancie from there, no questions asked. Now, in comes the Finny, but that speedy Nidoking is going to outpace, go for the Thunderbolt, and take out the Finny as well, and now all he has left is this Walling Core. Now, I just need Nidoking to go down here, because Hitmonchan can clean this game out quite nicely. As you can see, in it comes against the Chansey. Drain Punch isn't quite going to take it out, but here our opponent is going to make a bit of a misplay, go for Thunder Wave, which he can't do in Misty Terrain. Seeing the Jiggers up, he is in fact going to forfeit there. So, the priority really putting in a lot of work there. Everything really did its job. Ninjas didn't make an appearance, unfortunately, but priority was really the winner there. Priority and a little bit of predicting with some nice move pulls on the part of the Nidoking and especially the Hitmonchan. So we're going to go and get into the second game and see if we can keep up the winning streak. So, second game, as you can see, we're up against what looks to be a much more offensively based team than the last one. Again, a lot of prevalent OU threats. Zapdos is looking like it could be a bit of an issue. I'd like to take that thing out early. Scizor too. This team doesn't particularly enjoy water types that much, but Finny hasn't been too much of an issue for me so far. So I'm hoping that we can, you know, keep that up. I have a lot of super effective priority in this game, which is going to be very nice, hopefully. So, let's get into the game and see what happens. I'm actually going to leave my Ninjask here as our opponent goes with Zapdos. Now, I don't fear this thing particularly. I'm just going to go for the U-turn, get some nice damage, and go into my Nidoking. Now, he's actually going to go for the middle ground Heat Wave, which does get the burn. That doesn't matter to Nidoking. Here, I'm going to make a middle ground, potentially predicting a switch and go for Thunderbolt. Going to go for Hidden Power, which is going to take down Kong to have it with one hit left in, but I'm going to go for Ice Beam, and that's going to be a double down with Kong and Zapdos both falling, but that's fine. Zapdos is a threat, and I wanted to get rid of it. Gigalith in here against the Finny. That's not a matchup I like at all. And Azumarill really doesn't mind taking on Finny, who taunts me, but that's fine, I am banded. Now, Scald can't burn me under the misty terrain. Double Edge can do a lot of damage. Huge amount to the Finny, and that's really weakened it. Now, the switch into T-Tar or Sizzle was fairly obvious, but I'm still going to just stay in and go for the Double Edge. I am on the offensive here, and I do have the advantage, and that still does a good amount of damage. Now, Incredible's going to get on out of there and go into Gigalith, because I can tank these hits from a T-Tar, especially with my leftovers. I can take 4. Well, I can take 3 and then die on the 4th. So, as he keeps going for Earthquake, I'm going to get my rocks up. Now, I can take this second to last Earthquake, go for one of my own, and get massive damage on the T-Tar, who doesn't have leftovers. So, he's going to take me out with the Earthquake, which is fine. Because now priority is going to come in the form of Hitmonchan and take him out with a Mach Punch, no questions asked. Down goes T-Tar, and we're back on parity. Now, Finny comes in, but I bank that I can take a hit from this guy, and as it turns out, I can very handily. I can go for the Thunder Punch and take out the Finny as well, so Hitmonchan is putting in a massive amount of work. Now in comes the Lati. Hitmonchan has done its job, I don't see it doing too much more, and I can scout out that he is a Life Orb Latios set, and Revenge with Ninjask, because I'll outspeed him. But he's going to go into Infinite. U-turn was always going to be my play anyway. Now I can go into Azumarill, and once again priority is going to come to the 4, Infinite's going to go down, which is lovely. Now in comes the Sizzle, but I've been saving Boss the Arcanine for this very moment. I get the Intimidate, he's going to Mega Up and go for Sword Dance, but it's really not going to matter, and Bullet Punch still isn't doing anything. He's not even going to bother with it. He's just going to let his Sizzle go down and let me take that massive recall damage, and now it's his Latios versus the world. I'm going to go for Extreme Speed for the chip damage, which I don't think he saw coming. He's going to go for the Psyshock here to take me out, and I was going to do the classic 5 guys in the Gigalith ending. He forfeits before I can go into Ninjask and go for that big Giga Impact. So, that's a couple of games with the original 5 guys and a Gigalith team. So the question we were kind of asking ourselves here, or at least I was asking myself, was can this team, built around what it was, the building blocks of 5 guys and the Gigalith, can they still hang with the big boys in OU? And the answer, kind of yes. I mean, as you can see, we've got a couple of wins there against some pretty prevalent threats going on in the OU tier. I'm a bulky offense player myself, so I like having the likes of Azumarill, Arcanine, Hitmonchan, 3 bulky boys with priority is nice. Gigalith, of course, too, and then you've got Nidoking, who can take a hit here and there, and Ninjask, who's very much there to just outspeed things and pick them off as and when. You know, when the Gen 7 meta started, it was quite slow. You know, a lot of Gen 7 Pokemon weren't particularly quick, but the meta has sped up quite significantly, in fact. So, bulky offense based around priority actually does really well at this point. You know, as I say, those 3, the likes I mentioned, the Azumarill, the Hitmonchan, and the Arcanine, they can really put in a good shift nowadays. Azumarill does struggle a little bit, not having Play Rough, which is a minor problem, but realistically we can get around it by the fact that its stab is just so outright powerful. But yeah, the likes of this sort of predicting and saving priority until the end, that kind of team actually does quite a lot of work in this meta right now. So yeah, 5 guys in the Gigalith, 3 generations old, but still hanging with the big boys. Absolutely class. But, as I've mentioned, this is a Gen 14 in a Gen 7 world. And as I mentioned earlier at the beginning of the video, something I wanted to do and had in the back of my mind was at some point maybe making a similar team. So, we're going to end things off here with this video for now, but in the next sort of episode of this little mini session, we're going to have an updated version of 5 Guys and the Gigalith with some new players, some new toys, and we're going to see if they can, you know, carry the torch of their first, original, and greatest incarnation into the current meta as things stand. But yes, hope you enjoyed that one. Thank you all very much for watching. Links will be down in the description for the one and only legend MBZ. You know, links I can find to YouTube. He does some streaming, as I say, nowadays. And if I can find a link to that podcast, This Nintendo Life, which he does with his friend Bally, that will be down there as well. I highly recommend you check them out. Talking about a lot of Nintendo stuff, MBZ is very knowledgeable about this kind of thing, and you'll probably learn a lot as well as having fun. He's a funny guy, and he's an intelligent guy, so, you know, do check those kind of things out. But, yeah, as I say, that's going to wrap things up from me. So, my final thank you to you all for watching, and I guess with that, I'll see you next time. Laters.